And then I became definitely not a fan of the show, especially after I did the show. Like, I don't wear tight shorts and that's where the knife went in right there. And I'll spare you the details of my ass, but yeah.
That's where I'm, listen.
Like Tupac or Biggie or those guys?
Oh, good friends of mine. I was friends with Tupac way before he even blew up. When
You have been embroiled in a lot of controversy. The press has been really hard on you lately, saying that you lied.
I had my bodyguards who had guns, and they had their people which had guns, and they had us outpowered and outnumbered.
He goes, I want you to know you're one of the great ones. You're dope. You're going to leave your mark, your legacy. And this is before it happened. He knew it.
There was a time when the name Vanilla Ice echoed through every mall, radio, and teenage bedroom across America. A bleach blonde whirlwind of charisma and swagger, his rise was nothing short of explosive. Ice Ice Baby wasn't just a catchy tune, it was a cultural earthquake. Robert Van Winkle, the kid from the suburbs with a dance crew and a dream, had suddenly become the face of pop rap at a time when the genre was still trying to carve its place in the mainstream. But as quickly as he rose, he vanished. For decades, the world thought they had the answer. Vanilla Ice was just another one-hit wonder who couldn't handle the heat of the game. Maybe the novelty wore off. Maybe the backlash broke him. Maybe he simply didn't have what it took to endure. That's what they all said. That's the version of the story they sold. But what if the truth was far more sinister? What if Vanilla Ice didn't just walk away from fame? What if he escaped? Robert Van Winkle is finally talking. And what he's revealing is more than just a cautionary tale. It's a glimpse into the darkest corners of the entertainment industry, a world where fame comes at a price, and sometimes that price is your soul.
This guy had a crystal ball.
As for Tupac's label boss, Suge Knight, things went in a completely different direction, and there's a famous
Digital Underground, NWA. I was the opening act. Listen, I was the opening act for the opening act for the opening act for the opener for the opener when we did.
About your background.
I mean, that's all old news. I didn't lie about
But
nothing.
I haven't interviewed you, so it's new news for my audience, so let's get into it.
At first, everything felt like a dream. When Ice Ice Baby hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, history was made. No white rapper had ever topped the charts like that. For a moment, he was untouchable. His album To the Extreme sold faster than Purple Rain. Hollywood came calling. Madonna came calling. Everyone wanted a piece of Vanilla Ice. But behind the scenes, it wasn't just fans and record execs knocking at his door. According to Ice, he started getting invited to parties. Not your regular champagne and celebrity kind of parties. These were the type that whispered secrets through velvet curtains. Parties where the power players of the music world congregated in private mansions and back rooms, where the air smelled too sweet and the smiles came with strings attached. He was young. He didn't understand what was really going on, at least not at first. But he could feel something was off. There was a kind of electricity in the air, a darkness that lingered even after the music stopped. And when the invitations kept coming, they weren't just invitations anymore. They were ultimatums. Get in line, play the game, join the club, or vanish. Vanilla Ice didn't just say no, he ran. He later described those days as a snow globe moment. The kind where your entire reality gets shaken up and everything you thought was real suddenly floats in chaos. The lights, the applause, the fame, it was all a carefully manufactured illusion, a glittering trap. He had hundreds of millions in the bank, more fame than most people dream of, but he felt empty. He didn't even know who he was. The man in the mirror wasn't Robert Van Winkle anymore. He was a product, a puppet. And that's when the nightmares began. He began to feel like a ghost in his own life. He once said, "All my dreams that I thought were dreams turned out to be nightmares." With money, cars,
Did the Stop the Violence tour with NWA, Stetsa Sonic, EPMD, Sir Mix-a-Lot. So I was that kid out there, and they were great.
I thought he was a little hard on me. He was venomous.
I've heard stories about me lying about where I came from and everything.
houses, and fans screaming his name. He had never felt more lost. There were moments he didn't want to live. Moments where he stood at the edge, staring into the abyss, wondering if this was all life had to offer. But he didn't fall. He turned away. It wasn't just about fame. It was about survival. According to recent whispers and now increasingly bold claims, Vanilla Ice wasn't just targeted for fame. He was being recruited into something far more twisted. Behind the glitter and glamour were gatekeepers, powerful figures who allegedly hazed rising stars into submission. Through rituals, through humiliation, through control. Some claim these were deeply disturbing rites of passage, designed to break down the spirit and rebuild it in service of the industry's hidden agendas. Rumors swirl around similar stories involving other artists, names like Diddy, Clive Davis, even the late Whitney Houston. These weren't isolated incidents, if the whispers are true. They were patterns, initiations. Vanilla Ice was supposed to be next, and maybe he would have been, if he hadn't walked away. But walking away didn't mean walking free. Not yet. There were threats, pressure, people calling him crazy, people calling him a liar, people trying to erase him from the narrative. His career was smeared, his credibility attacked. Suddenly, he was being mocked on late-night shows, accused of lying about his roots, painted as a poser who didn't belong in the game. But he kept his silence. He let them talk, because he knew the truth. The image they built around him wasn't his. It was theirs. Vanilla Ice wasn't supposed to be Robert Van Winkle anymore. He was supposed to be a product they could control. The publicists, the record labels, the managers, they all created a caricature. The bleach blonde, wild dancing, clean rapping, safe version of rap that could be packaged and sold to suburban America. And when Robert pushed back, they pushed harder. The Arsenio Hall interview became a symbol of his public takedown. The media latched on. The narrative shifted. Suddenly, Vanilla Ice was a fraud, a liar, a joke. But none of them knew what was really happening. Behind the scenes, Ice was fighting for his life, not just his career. There were nights he didn't sleep. Nights where he questioned whether he had made the right choice by walking away. But deep down, he knew he had. He had escaped the trap that so many others hadn't. He saw what happened to others who didn't say no. Artists whose light burned too bright.
Publicists and everything, they create this image, okay? This image. And it's easy to hate on that image because it's a novelty act image, you know?
This is a quote that you said in one of your interviews. You said, at one point in my life, I didn't even know who I was, what my purpose was. I didn't want to live anymore.
And too fast. Artists who whispered about secret rooms and strange parties before their voices were silenced. Some were no longer here to speak. Others have broken down in public view, their spirits cracked by an industry that chews up and spits out the very talent it profits from. But Vanilla Ice? He lived. He found his purpose again. In his family. In his children. In real life. He married young, to a woman named Laura Garita, and though their marriage eventually ended after nearly 2 decades, it was a real life, away from the stage lights. They had 2 daughters. He built a career outside of music, flipping houses, building things with his own 2 hands. A far cry from the glitz and shadows of the industry. It wasn't the life he was promised, but it was real. Looking back now, Vanilla Ice has said things that hint at just how close he came to losing it all, not just his fame, but his identity, his soul. Who I am today is a complete flip-the-script opposite of who I was then, he said in one emotional interview. And just super grateful, man. For my family, for my kids. That's the meaning of life, man. The true meaning of life. 100%. Even Madonna, who once proposed to him at the height of his fame, couldn't make him stay in that world. He walked away from that too. Because by then, he could already feel it, that the adoration, the money, the attention, it wasn't love. It was hunger. And it would devour him if he let it. He remembers the frenzy. The mobs of screaming fans tearing at his clothes. The autograph signings that turned into stampedes. He once had to be dragged out by 10 security guards while fans tore off his shirt, shattered his watch, and wrote, "We love you, Vanilla Ice," in permanent marker on a white limousine. It wasn't passion, it was madness. And through all that, he was just 23 years old. No mentors. No father figure. Just a kid trying to dance his way into something meaningful. He didn't have a roadmap. He didn't have protection. He only had instinct. And that instinct saved him. Vanilla Ice never wanted to be a puppet. He just wanted to make music, to breakdance, to belong. But when belonging came with a price too steep to pay, he chose exile over sacrifice. Today, he looks back on that period with clarity. I didn't know who I was, he says. Now I do. Maybe we all owe him an apology. For the jokes. For the mockery. For believing the headlines and forgetting the human being behind them. Robert Van Winkle didn't just survive fame. He escaped a machine that tried to consume him. A machine that's still out there, still chewing up the next generation of talent. He walked away. And in doing so, he may have saved himself. Not every artist gets that chance. But Vanilla Ice did. And he lived to tell the tale.